let me show you how to rank your website on Google step by step. I used this strategy to create this website last year that is now getting over 10,000 visitors from Google, and it's also making more than $1,500 per month. And this is all thanks to SEO, or search engine optimization, which is exactly what I'm going to show you how to do in this video. So our website ranks on top of Google search results, and whenever somebody searches for something related to the website's topic, they will find our articles at the top and they will click through, and that's why we get passive traffic and passive income to our website. But wait a minute, people say that SEO is dead. Well, that's because they are using this super popular yet completely outdated strategy that everybody else still teaches. For example, here is a website that I built with my friend just 7 months ago this year, and it's growing faster than any one of my previous websites. But that's enough of me bragging. Now let me show you how to do this. Now, one of the most common questions I get asked all the time is, how on earth do I make my website rank on Google? Well, let's start with the truth. So surprisingly often, the answer is you simply can't. And that is not due to the lack of skills or lack of expertise or experience, but it's simply because there is too much competition. Now, let me give you a real-life example. So let's say that there is a group of people that have gathered together to watch a soccer game. The problem is that they don't have a television to watch that game on. Now, one of the neighbors realizes this, and they will bring in a telly and ask every single participant to pay $5 to watch the game. That is awesome. There was a problem and a huge audience with that problem, and now there is a solution. Now, next week, another neighbor brings another telly to the watch party, and they only ask for $1 to watch the game. And then the week after, a local electronics company realizes the opportunity and they bring in a high-quality mobile theater and they let these people watch the game for free. Except for that the season has already ended. And this situation right here describes exactly why most people fail when they are doing SEO. So they come way too late to the party. To do search engine optimization successfully, that is, if you want to have your website rank high on Google, you need to be one of the first people to the party. That is basically the time when the audience gathers together, but there is no reliable resource or no big key player that they would trust with their issues. Sadly, most people come to the party after the season has ended, that is, when the people is already leaving the audience with a solution. For most of the topics on the internet, the train has already passed. In other words, no matter how good a website you build, no matter how good of a strategy you use, or how expensive toolset you use, it is simply not going to work. And this is something nobody else talks about. And the reason is simple. All these other people that are teaching how to do search engine optimization are also selling their super expensive search engine optimization tools. They would only lose customers if they were crazy enough to tell that most of the time SEO strategies simply don't work. But I want to be fully transparent and set fully realistic expectations for you, so that's why I'm sharing this information, unlike all these other creators out there. Next up, let's talk about search engines. So a search engine is a business who wants to provide the best answer to a searcher's question. Ideally, when you look at the search engine results pages, the very first page should give you the best answer possible. But that is freaking hard because anyone can say anything on the internet. That's why search engines rank these web pages based on reputation and authority. And I don't need to dig deeper into the details because there is a perfect real-life example that shows exactly how this works. So imagine that you're looking for financial advice, and now you have two people who you can ask. You have Bob, who has only made one trade in their life, and then you have Alice. Alice has made over 1,000 successful trades in her life. She also has a degree from a financial school, and she has a huge group of industry leaders endorsing her. Now, Who would you rather ask? Well, I'd at least go with Alice. This is exactly how search engines work. The more experienced your website is, and the more expertise you show on your website, the higher the chances for it to do well. And before I show you the exact SEO blueprint for success, let me clear up two confusions. So people say that SEO is technical, but the truth is that it's not technical. SEO is technical is like saying you need to build a house if you want to live in one. Yes, you can make it very hard for yourself, and you can start from a complete scratch by putting everything together with thousands of lines of code. I personally don't know anyone who would do it this way these years. So instead of making it hard for yourself, you can use pre-made solutions. That is, you can build a WordPress website on a popular web hosting company, and they will take care of 99.9% of the technical duties and details so that you don't even need to know what's going on behind the scenes. Then there's another common misconception where people believe that there is a clear-cut strategy or some kind of a form or a message you could send to Google to rank your website high on the search results. Well, this is a flat-out lie. There is no such thing because the process is fully automated. There is absolutely no way for you to tell Google to rank your page at the #1 spot in the search results. All you need to do is create epic content and build epic websites, and Google will find those pages eventually. There is absolutely nothing else you can do to make your site rank higher in the search results. And that's just the name of the game. So don't believe in growth hacks, those simply don't work. If somebody tells you to use some specific keywords or some LSI keywords in your blog posts, or to build links to your website, just ignore it. Building links is as clever as buying social media followers. Now let me show you the step-by-step guide on how to do SEO properly. Before you do search engine optimization, you need a niche. And this basically means that you need a topic around which you will build your website. For example, it could be a tennis website, a mathematics blog, or some kind of a software review hub. And as I've said before, you need to establish yourself as the loudest voice in your space if you want to get that coveted #1 spot on Google. And this can easily take years of hard work. That's why I recommend working on one niche or one topic at a time. When you choose a niche for your website, choose something that is trendy and new. A web page that ranks on Google needs to always deliver the best answer to the searcher's question. And here's the problem. If there is already a perfect answer to the question, you're already late to the party. And that's why I recommend choosing a trendy topic or a trendy niche that has just popped up. Something that has a lot of buzz and a big audience interested in it, but there is no information anywhere that would be reliable. A perfect example of a topic like this is, you guessed it, AI. In fact, I have made most of my SEO income through AI software reviews. But finding a completely new and trendy topic can be very challenging. In fact, right now, I don't even know if there is anything else except for that AI that I just mentioned that would actually fill in these criteria that I just laid down for you. Luckily, you have other strategies to try. So the next tip is to find a content gap. So instead of finding a new and trendy topic such as AI, look for these existing topics and existing industries. And basically what this means is that in a content gap, you have all these search results, but they are not nearly as good as they could be. In other words, they are not providing any good or useful answers to their audience. Just as an example, if you search for best tennis shoes, you will find a bunch of crappy results where the people just list these shoes, but they clearly have not tested them, which is the most important thing on a review like that. That's where you can shine with your website. Instead of listing products and rephrasing what these landing pages have already said millions of times before, what if you went out there, bought all these shoes and tested those and then wrote these articles to provide actual value and to actually help your audience save their money and save their time and save them from a hassle? That is a perfect example of a content gap. So, if tennis in and of itself is a super competitive niche, you can actually find a subcategory inside that tennis niche, for example, these racket reviews or these equipment reviews, where you will find that the content is not nearly as good as it could be. And this right here might be your content gap and an amazing opportunity for you to do SEO successfully. But that's not the only strategy with which you can find success while doing SEO. That's because you can also narrow down to your local niche. What I mean by this is that if you find a topic that is super competitive, you can specialize that to your local area only. So for instance, if you have a website on travel guides, that might be way out of your reach because there is so much competition and those sites have existed for tens of years now. But what if you did travel guides for Helsinki, Finland? Well, that is a kind of a sub-niche that is very specific and that definitely does not have a lot of competition because the population and the amounts of people that have visited Helsinki is very small compared to like this travel guide industry in general. And then speaking of local niches, you can also use your native language. So there is a whopping 1.35 billion people that understand English. And this makes basically all these English-speaking niches very competitive and very saturated very quickly. But instead of focusing on a niche in English, what if you translated it to your native language? Of course, assuming that you're not speaking English natively. Just as an example, I have seen awesome results with my Finnish-speaking websites. Even the most competitive industries and spaces are not that competitive here in Finland at all. That's because we only have a bit over 5 million people speaking the language. And just to put things into perspective, in English, I would say that only 1 in 100 niches is worth targeting with search engine optimization. On the other hand, here in Finland, for example, I would say that 99 out of 100 niches are potentially great for SEO. And as the next step, you obviously need a website, because if you want to rank high on Google, you need a website which can rank there. To this end, I recommend using WordPress. And that's because it actually powers over 40% of all the websites in the world. If you need a complete 30-minute step-by-step guide on how to set up a WordPress website, I have left a link to one in the description and you can watch that on my YouTube channel for free. And just to give you a rough idea on how to build a website these days, here's how it goes. First, you need to choose a site name. That could, for example, be artturialli.com. Then you need to sign up for a web hosting company. From there, you will buy your domain name and a WordPress website plan. Then just choose a theme for your website from an existing library of professionally made free designs. Once again, this happens with a single click of a button. Then just customize your pages, add the right information, and start pushing out content. And if you do this for the first time, you will probably spend like 15 to 30 minutes on it. And when you have a website and you have chosen a niche for it, then it is time to consider the topics that you should cover on your website. So the truth is that if you want to rank on Google, you need to cover absolutely everything related to your niche. And I mean literally. If your site is not the most complete resource in your industry, it is not going to perform well. Google has no reason to promote your content if they know that there are, let's say, 10 better websites than yours. And when I say that you need to cover everything related to your niche, I mean, you need to write blog posts. And that's actually what 99% of SEO is. It is all about becoming a blogger and writing blog posts on your website. Just as an example, here is the website that I mentioned earlier. This one has over 200 blog posts that I wrote with my friend. Thanks to these blog posts, we get 10,000 visitors per month because these blog posts answer specific questions people have related to our website's niche, and when they search for those, we rank on Google and they passively click on those links to find their answers to their burning questions. And also, a portion of that traffic starts to use our application, which is actually what we promote on this website. But due to the sheer volume of blog posts that you need to write, it actually helps you a lot if you build a topical map first. This gives your site a nice hierarchy, and it also helps you as a writer to focus on these specific areas in your niche. To create a topical map, you should start listing all these topics that you need to cover on your website. And this is what I love about SEO. You don't need to be creative at all. You don't need, or you even shouldn't, come up with these topics off the top of your head. Instead, just use data to see what people are searching for related to your industry. Just open up Google and type in something related to your niche or something related to a core concept in your industry. Then just look at what Google suggests. These suggestions are basically things that people are searching all the time, and Google's AI makes a prediction that these are the topics that you are searching for most likely. In other words, these are the topics that you want to target with your website. Also, to find even more of these topics, click one of these suggestions and scroll through the search engine results pages. This way you'll find even more of these related queries, and people also ask questions that you might also want to cover on your website. But then the main way for you to find these awesome topics is by stalking your competitors. And this is something you need to do anyways, because if you think about it, SEO is a business like any other. And if you want to thrive, if you want to have your website rank on Google, you need to build the most informative and the most complete website in your industry. So there should be no competitor that has more content than your website. You need to cover everything that your competitors have covered. And that's why I recommend opening up Google, typing in something related to your niche, and opening up these competing pages and checking what they have covered during their lifetime. And with these two strategies, you should find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of topics to write about. Then it's time to build a topical map. And you don't necessarily need to do this, but this just makes the job a lot easier and a lot more consistent for you. And also, if you're not too familiar with the topic that you're writing about, this will also help you kind of visualize these different parts you should focus on and these different areas and these core concepts. So in a topical map, you have main categories, then you have subcategories, and then you have subcategories, and so on. And if you structure your website with this strategy, you will actually end up with a situation where you have these main blog posts and they are promoting these sub blog posts that share more information about these topics that you share in these main posts. And then in a similar fashion, these sub posts link to these sub posts. So when somebody finds your website, they land in on one of these articles, they will find links to all these other relevant resources related to that topic or that subtopic in this industry. So for example, if you have a tennis website, your main topics could include something like equipment, rules, and training. These all deserve their own blog posts that are super long and super detailed. I usually write these to be more than 5,000 words in length. Then in every single one of these posts, you should promote your subtopics that you're covering next. And for example, speaking of the subcategories, if you have the equipment main category and you have a blog post about tennis equipment, your subcategories you could cover could be things like rackets, shoes, balls. And these subtopics also need their own blog posts. But then you should also split these subcategories into subcategories. For example, if we take the subcategory of tennis balls, you should split that into regular duty tennis balls, extra duty tennis balls, grass court tennis balls, pressureless tennis balls, high altitude tennis balls, and junior or beginner tennis balls. And once again, every one of these subcategories deserve their own blog post. So this way you will end up with a tree-like structure of interconnected blog posts. This maximizes your website's accessibility. It makes sure that you actually cover everything related to your website in detail in a better way than your competitors. And it's also easy for you to work with a structure like this because you can, for example, choose to work on one of these topics in 1 week and then the other one of these topics the next week. And once you have a list of all these topics, and if you have created the topical map, then it is finally time to start writing out these blog posts. And the way I recommend you to do this is by focusing on one topic or one subtopic at a time. So that's why the content topical map can help you. So for instance, if you have a tennis website, you don't really need to start from a blank piece of paper, but you can see that, okay, this week I will be working on this equipment branch, and then you will find the equipment main post and then the sub posts. And that's the way to work. So that way you will focus on one area at a time. It is less stressful for you, and it's also building this website in a consistent way. So you will actually end up with a logical website where you have covered one topic already when you move on to the next one, as opposed to if you're just working on random topics. And just remember that this is going to take time. So writing out these blog posts can easily take a year or two if you're working in even a bit more competitive space. For example, the site I mentioned before, we wrote like 200 blog posts on it and it took about 400-500 hours. And if you think about it, that's like almost 2 hours per day for an entire year if you're working on every business day. And that is a very niche specific website here in Finland. Yet it still takes hundreds of hours to complete. Next up, let me show you a step-by-step guide on how to write these epic blog posts that will rank every single time. And I don't want to make this super long, but I have linked to another video somewhere here or here where you can actually find a complete 100-minute tutorial on how to write a blog post from A to Z. So the first thing you need to do every single time when you write a blog post is that you need to make sure it becomes the best post on the internet. This is the most important thing. If there's only one thing to take away from this video, it is that every piece of content you share should be the absolute best out there. If it's the second best, it will never perform. Now, if you have chosen your website's niche carefully, every topic that you cover, or at least most of the topics that you will end up covering, have a large content gap, which basically means that it's not even a hard task to write a blog post that is 10 times better than what exists. So take advantage of this. If you're not good at writing, don't worry. There's so much work to be done that you will end up being a master writer even before you finish your first website as an SEO. Then the next step is probably the second most important step along the way. So on every single blog post that you write, you should show experience and expertise. So anyone can write a blog post. That is the easy part. Producing text is something that even AI can do. But the hard part is gaining the experience and showing it and sharing the expertise and putting in the legwork before you write blog posts. For example, my most successful blog post only took 2 hours to write, but it took over 1,000 hours to do the research for that blog post. Many people talk about building SEO websites basically by combining these top 3 search results on Google and doing the research for an hour and then writing a blog post in an hour. That is the worst strategy out there, and that is why all these people say that SEO is dead, their site got struck by Google algorithm updates and whatnot, because they are not adding anything new to the internet. So every time you write a blog post, you need to share experience and expertise to add something new to the internet. These search engines are becoming very good at detecting if a piece of content is just repeating what is already out there or if it's actually adding something new to the table. So if you write a blog post on how to tie shoelaces, show yourself tying those shoelaces. Or if you write a blog post that reviews a pair of tennis shoes, make sure that you have used those shoes for a while and that you take images along the way. And the latter part is actually the most important part, because that way you can actually show that you have actual experience with those products. The only blog posts that I have ever ranked on Google are the ones where I share my first-hand experience. And trust me, I have tried many times to rank content where I don't know what I'm talking about. And I see at least 10 times worse results. It's actually easier for me to just get a regular job instead of writing those blog posts where I talk about things that I don't understand, because the results are just so bad. I basically never see those pages rank on Google, and for a good reason. They should not rank on Google. And just to clear up some confusions, so if you're not doing SEO for yourself, so if you have a client with which you're working, then you can ask for that expertise and experiences from the client. But if you're doing SEO alone, if you're starting from scratch, if you just started a website, you need to become an expert in what you're teaching or talking about in that website. Then, as the next step, you need to use a clear structure to make your blog posts accessible to everybody. Don't just write a boring wall of text. Instead, split every single one of your blog posts into headings, subheadings, and sub-subheadings as much as needed. And you can even use AI to write the initial outline draft. Anyways, the idea is to make the content scrollable. If somebody is reading your blog post and they are in a hurry, they can just quickly scroll through while still maintaining an idea of what's going on, thanks to these headlines and sub-headlines that they can use as their guidance. Then make sure to use simple language in every blog. Do not try to outsmart your visitors. That is just going to drive them away. So SEO is all about accessibility. The easier language you use, the more audience you will attract. I always try to write for an 8th grader. That is easy for me and that is easy for my audience. There's absolutely no reason for you to try to act smart in front of the people that you're supposed to help. Keep it simple and be relatable. Then also one thing you need to pay attention to is that most of the people, or at least a huge chunk of people that are reading your blog posts, are reading those on a mobile device. And the last thing you want to show them is a boring wall of text that fills in the entire screen. These days, nobody has the patience to scroll through. To avoid this, use shorter paragraphs. I usually include between 1 and 3 sentences per paragraph. This is the mobile optimization part of SEO that you need to know. Then, make sure to use images absolutely everywhere. These are the only assets that will truly make you stand out these days. And only use images that you have taken. Do not use those generic stock library images. Everyone has access to those, and that will not once again make you stand out from the masses. Those will not help you build a better product or a better website than what already exists. So instead, add images that directly support the learning or support delivering your message in your content. And if for some reason there is no opportunity for you to use an image that you have taken, or if it doesn't really make sense, at least use visualizations that you have created with a tool like Canva. I usually add 50 to 100 images per blog post, especially when I'm talking about these main topics in my niche. Then do not forget to link to useful resources. And by the way, there is the right way to do this, and then there is the wrong way to do this. The right way is by referring to resources that you have actually read. If there is a YouTube channel, blog, a newspaper, or whatever you regularly follow related to that space, then share that with your audience, because the chances are that they will find it insightful as well. And the wrong way is by linking just for the sake of linking. And what I mean by this is that you just search for something on Google, you don't even read the first result, but you still end up linking to it because you want to add a cool looking link because somebody told you to do that. And speaking of leaving links, remember to link between your posts as well. That is not only good because you can provide value for your audience, but you will also keep them longer on your website, which is one of the keys to success in search engine optimization. Once again, there is the right way and there is the wrong way for doing this. Here is an example of doing it the wrong way. In this post, the author has spammed their links to their other posts absolutely everywhere. This is not helpful at all. This is just pure spam. This is linking for the sake of linking. Gosh, I hate content like that. They seem to have a link to every word that is even somewhat related to an existing post that they wrote. This is just going to drive your audience away, and that is going to overwhelm them. Once again, the right way for you to link between your posts is by doing it naturally. If you have a section in your blog post where you're like, I wish I could dig deeper into the details in this one, but I don't want to make this like a super long tutorial, this is a wonderful opportunity for you to link to your existing post where you have that long and detailed explanation that you just don't want to add to this smaller blog post. Then last but not least, make sure to read your blog post out loud. This will allow you to spot these clumsy sentences that you don't spot while you're writing those, but that don't sound quite right when you're reading those out loud. That way, you will make your blog post even more accessible and enjoyable to read. Now, here is an example of a good blog post. So I wrote this just the other day, and the topic is Best AI Logo Generators. If you search for this on Google, you'll find that these people have just listed those products. They have probably written the blog post with ChatGPT, and they have definitely not tested these products. They're just listing the features or information that can be found millions of times before. But here's what I have done. So I have written this blog post. I have embedded a video that I made about the topic to summarize the top 3 picks or top 5 picks or whatever, and then starts the blog post. And I'm not just listing these products, but I'm showing exactly how those work. And as you can see, this blog post is super long and super detailed. So I'm sharing my results, I'm showing the workflows, I'm giving some tips, I'm talking about my experiences and expertise with these products, I'm talking about the pricing, I'm talking about basically everything you need to know if you're choosing a logo maker. So this is a surprisingly long guide that probably takes at least like 30 minutes to read through. So this saves my audience's time, and instead of them having to test all these products and wonder whether they should buy this or not, they can actually just read it in like 30 minutes and make their decision based on this post. Now, the biggest issue in search engine optimization is that because your visitors come from Google, most of them are one-timers. And what I mean by this is that they search for their problem, they find their solution, and they never come back. So there is no engagement, they won't buy anything, they are not following you, and heck, they won't even remember your website 5 seconds later. And this is not a great business idea. So instead of letting your audience go away, instead of letting these valuable potential customers slip through the cracks, you need to be able to retain them somehow. There needs to be a way for you to communicate directly to the people that have once visited your website. And this is possible by starting a newsletter. You can use tools like MailChimp, which is the one that I'm using currently, to do this. Then the way to fill in this newsletter subscribers list is by calling your people to action to join that newsletter in every single blog post. So for example, if you have 100,000 visitors to your website every month, there might easily be 1,000 to 2,000 people that will jump in on your newsletter if your site is valuable enough. Now, obviously, you need a strategy for people to join your newsletter because people are already in hundreds of newsletters to begin with. In short, you can't just do something like, hey, join our newsletter, please. Instead, you need to do something like, join this free 100-minute lesson or something like that, and then they will join in exchange for their email. Nonetheless, this email marketing thing is a completely different topic and I'm not going to cover it in this video. Once you have a huge newsletter subscribers list, it doesn't really matter if Google is bringing you traffic or not. If you, for example, have 100,000 people that are actively reading your newsletter, you will actually get most of your page views, most of your customers and whatnot from that newsletter directly. If you have a website that has a lot of traffic, but you don't keep that traffic, in other words, if you don't have a newsletter, your site is worth significantly less than it would be if you had a strong newsletter. Then another common way for you to make the most out of your traffic on your website is by adding these CTAs or calls to action to complete some desired action. For example, this could be something like book a call, book an appointment, or something similar. That is a perfect use case of SEO to drive customers to a business because these people have a problem that they want to solve right now. Then you have a blog post that explains exactly what's going on, and at the end of it, you're going to recommend them to take action. That is awesome. But of course, this depends on your website's niche entirely. Sometimes you have an audience that is very close to making a purchase already, and then you can just tell them to buy now. But most of the time, I would say like 99% of the time, people are not ready just yet. So you need to warm up your audience a bit. And that's why you want to add these lead magnets that I actually mentioned before, where you have something like a free training session or checklist or something like that, that the audience member signs up for in exchange for their email. And then this email sequence is the part where you actually slowly but surely guide them towards making a purchase. Now, after everything what I have just said, here is search engine optimization in one sentence. To do SEO successfully, start a website in a low competition niche and write hundreds of quality blog posts to cover your entire niche from A to Z. That's it. It is definitely not rocket science and it's definitely not hard, but it takes a heck a lot of time. As the next video I recommend you watching is this video on how to start writing blog posts and how to make sure that your blog posts will rank every time to bring in that passive traffic and passive income. But for now, thank you so much for watching and see you next time.